Welcome everybody. We're just gonna let everyone get into the event and then we will be getting started with our special guests from Student Affairs and Undergraduate Education. Thank you so much for joining us. It looks like we have a lot of attendees today, so we look forward to answering your questions. Just some ground rules as everyone is joining us. We will be posting some links in the chat, but if you have any questions or anything you want to discuss or bring up to our moderators or presenters, you can put it in the Q&A and we'll be utilizing that throughout the event. We have a lot of information to go over with you, which we're really excited to share, as well as be able to answer your question towards the end. So I want to thank Rick and Shelley for joining me today. Thank you guys so much. And looks like we have a pretty good amount of participants. So why don't you guys tell us a little bit just about what your role is here at Stony Brook, and then we'll get started.
Rick, go ahead.
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm so glad you could join us tonight. I hear we're hitting close to 600, so this is great. So welcome. I'm Dr. Rick Etto, and I serve as the Vice President for Student Affairs and Dean of Students at Stony Brook. I've been at the university for just about 20 years now, so time has flown by. I am a Long Island native, so grew up in Nassau County, and I've been working at Stony Brook. I started out in academic advising, worked on some graduation efforts that we had in place, and in the student affairs realm, my responsibility really relates to everything that's kind of the out-of-class experience. And that includes various areas such as our housing on campus, for our commuter student services, our health services, our recreation center, all student life, our career center, and all things that really relate to student support and helping students really be successful and get engaged in campus life. So happy to talk more as we go throughout the hour with you tonight.
Hi, everyone. So I'm Shelley Germana. I'm the Associate Provost for Academic Success with Undergraduate Education. I'm really excited to be here. So as Rick mentioned, and he's talking a little bit about some of the scope of the services in student affairs, and with academic affairs, we're looking at, and the areas that I oversee, we're really looking at academic support services for students. Many of the areas that I oversee support students in a variety of ways around academics, including the undergraduate colleges, which we're going to talk about tonight, which is our first year experience and transition support program, our academic success and tutoring center, our fantastic Finish in 4 program, which is a program that really supports students all the way from the point at which they come into Stony Brook, all the way through the point at which they graduate, as well as all of our advising units as well. So really looking forward to talking more about that and about the services that we have for you and your students.
Awesome. So that's a great jumping off point. So the first thing and the thing we get the questions a lot about is the undergraduate colleges. So can you tell us a little bit how undergraduate colleges work, how they work in conjunction with advising and housing and commuter students, and a little bit of an overview about that?
Yeah, absolutely. And what I'll say is, Rick can obviously jump in because I really want to emphasize that this is, I guess I will say, Jacqueline, just to start, and I say this often when I talk with students and families, every school that you're going to look at really does have some version of a first year experience program. I think you'd be probably hard pressed to look nationally and not find, particularly at the larger schools, some version of a first year experience program. But what really sets Stony Brook apart, and I have worked at a few different institutions, but what really sets Stony Brook apart is the Undergraduate Colleges program. And that program was a true collaboration between academic affairs and student affairs that really approached the true experience of the student, which is one experience, right? And so I'm always really excited to talk about that. So, Rick, just jump in, obviously, because this is a collaboration among our areas in the way that we mutually support students. The Undergraduate Colleges is a transition support program. So it's a way to assist students as they move from high school into college. There's lots of different things that happen from when you're leaving high school and coming into the first semester of college, different kinds of experiences, different atmosphere, different workload, different courses, things like that. And so the Undergraduate Colleges really prioritizes that new experience for students and tries to help students build toward being successful. So one of the big ways that we do that is we have integrated advising within the undergraduate colleges. So every student, when they come into Stony Brook, they they rank their preference for an undergraduate college community, which is the learning community that students will be a part of. We have 3 actually fantastic communities this year. There's a lot of exciting changes actually going on with the undergraduate colleges, and one of which is that we have changed our topics within the undergraduate colleges to really map onto real 21st century real world problems, which we're really excited about, and lots of opportunities for students to explore those. So those learning communities are global health, wellness, and community, social justice, equity and ethics, and creativity, technology, and innovation. So all students will have an opportunity to rank those preferences and which community they would like to be a part of. And the idea with those communities always was to really try to drill down or create a smaller community within this much larger community that is Stony Brook. So students really get a much more individualized experience within these communities as they come in. So with those communities, students will have assigned advisors, which is really one of the ways in which the undergraduate colleges shine. So it's integrated advising right from the start, from the moment that a student is going to go through their initial registration process. If your students are going to be in housings, and Rick can talk more about this, but the students will live together within the community in housing. So first year students, and then within their undergraduate college community. Many of the programs and workshops that students will experience will be within the community, and obviously they have access to everything that Stony Brook has to offer, but these are tailored specifically to their undergraduate college theme and topics. And in addition to that, and this is, I think, also where Stony Brook really shines, students will have both a fall first year seminar and a spring first year seminar. And the fall first year seminar is designed as a skills development course. They're very small. They're often less than 20 students, paired with an instructor and a peer mentor to really learn about and unpack the college experience right away in that first semester. And then in the second semester, they actually get to move into a again, very small seminar with a faculty member. One of our tenure and tenure track faculty members will teach a small seminar to a group of less than 20. And so students are actually right away getting that experience with our fantastic Stony Brook faculty around a particular topic that relates to the theme. So one of the I think main takeaways, I guess, in all this, when I talk with families and students is that we really try to create a thread for students right from the point that they come in, all the way through that first year. That's not just a network of support, but also really tries to create connections and experiences that relate to each other, that will then allow them to almost automatically begin to build relationships within that community around these central themes. So Rick, I don't know, do you want to talk a little bit about housing relative to that?
Sure. So I'll mention too, as to tag on what Shelley said, for the entering first year class, we do have obviously resident students and commuter students. And what's so great about what Shelley's sharing is that regardless of whether you live on campus or you commute to campus, you are still an integral part of the undergraduate college experience. So we really try to make sure that it's an equal experience regardless of living on or off campus. But just to give you some numbers, and I'll walk through the housing model a bit and even over your 4-year experience, about 85% of first year students do live on campus in their first year. As the years go on, some students choose to commute later or maybe live off campus. But we are actually, next to NYU, we are the second largest residential housing operation in New York State. So we house upwards of about just under 11,000 students a year. A few things I'll say specifically for this year, and we'll talk about some health and safety and COVID related things later, but I did want to mention that in a traditional pre-pandemic year, we would do tripling of first year students for at least some of them, given we have a high demand for housing. This year, because of COVID, we are not planning to do triple rooms. So they would be, most first year students will be in traditional double rooms. And the one exciting change, in addition to some changes with the college themes, we've also changed our housing operation And for the first time ever, which I'm so excited about, is all first-year students will live together in one of 3 quads. So if you have either relatives or friends or others who've lived in a different experience, just know your experience will be unique to you and your class of 2025. So in case you're familiar, I've done some research on the communities on campus. The 3 first-year communities will be, it's in Mendelssohn, H, and Roosevelt are the names of the larger communities beyond your college community. So this is the actual name of the actual physical space where you're living. What's nice about all those 3 communities is that they're all, again, traditional style, corridor style residence halls. So there's a lot of opportunity to engage with people because you're on kind of a common floor, talking with each other. So that'll be the experience in the first year. I saw some questions in the chat room just to mention, we do not allow first-year students or sophomores to have cars on campus. Part of that is for 2 reasons. One is it's just tight on space. And second is it's an opportunity for you to really integrate with the community on campus. But we can share later. We do a lot of off-campus trips and other ways to get off campus and do things if you don't even have a car, even when you're allowed to have one as a junior or senior on campus. If you're commuting to campus, you are allowed to have a car and bring that to campus, obviously, to get back and forth. And we have a full transit system on campus, and we can mention that later a bit. But back to, in terms of housing, just to walk through your 4 years, we do guarantee freshmen housing for their 4 years at Stony Brook, so 8 semesters of housing. But again, people have choices about what they want to do. So after this traditional style housing in the first year, the second year housing and sometimes the third year housing is more suite style housing, where there might be some single rooms and some double rooms living in a suite where there's a common living room. And then students transition from that often into what we call our apartments, which have single and double rooms as well. And those have a common living space and a kitchen. So that would allow people to kind of almost live much more independently, not have be on a required meal plan and other pieces. So that's kind of the transition plan that we are putting in place that we think makes a lot of sense. And not only as we look at Stony Brook and you entering the university, one of the things that we really want to focus on is your own class identity. And so we want you to know you are, and you're very special, you're the class of 2025 coming in. And our intention is to keep you all together as a first year group, carrying you through your 4 years, both in the housing front and programmatically in support and advising wise through that experience.
Awesome. And as you can see, Amanda just threw in a description for our new undergraduate colleges, as the redefined themes are listed there, so you guys can check it out. Currently, as students are enrolling and receiving things like their Stony Brook email and paying their deposits, after you do that, you'll get the opportunity to rank your undergraduate colleges through a form and survey. One of the questions we're getting is, can I change it? And unfortunately, once it's submitted, it's pretty final. So unless there is some kind of medical reason or anything like that, or but there really shouldn't be any accommodations that are necessary. But the themes, and Shelley can always talk more about this, are so universal. They can be tied to any program, any major. They're not in any way tied to your undergraduate major. I'm sure we have to say that all the time. I feel like we're repeating ourselves, but it's so true. It's more about a theme, a community to guide you through your first year and kind of just determine your 101 and your 102, which Shelley touched on. So feel free to take a look at that. But that's a little bit about our undergraduate colleges.
Jacqueline, can I just say
yes.
something really quickly? We actually encourage students to choose their undergraduate college, the community itself and the theme that's not aligned actually with what your major interest might be, because there's still opportunities to explore your major interest even within that community, but also will allow you to explore different kinds of different kinds of areas and disciplines and events, and you're going to have, for some of the majors in particular, you're going to have close relationships with your classmates and the professors, and so you're going to get to know that group in some ways already. And so this also provides a really good opportunity for you to expand out your networks and the students and the professional staff and faculty that you might get to know.
That actually leads to a great question that we got, examples of opportunities associated with individual UGCs. I know that in the past, they do different types of activities and connecting things. Do you have examples for the upcoming year?
Oh,
Put myself on mute. Yeah, absolutely. So in the past, what we've typically done and will continue to do this year is we've brought in a number of speakers, faculty experts. We often have service projects also aligned with the themes of the undergraduate colleges. One of our very, very big events that we have tended to host, and we're going to be doing something a little bit different this year, but still fairly similar. So you can look forward to that, has been our reading program. So our first year reading program. We're going to be actually expanding out the reading program this year to also include not just first year students, but more members of our campus community. So that's something that's very exciting, where you will get a book and be able to engage with that book and then look forward to different events that align with that book. In the past, we've done community festivals. There's been a human rights there was a human rights event in one of the undergraduate colleges. We've done a showcase, a poster showcase for work that students have done in their 102 seminars. So it's really a variety of both, I would say, or social events, so things to connect students, things also to help students academically plan. I mean, that's another important component of this. So a lot of time is spent providing students with workshops and opportunities to plan academically with their advisors, also very important. And then, as I mentioned, also opportunities to expand and explore different areas, different topics. We do health professions. We have a fantastic partner in one of the admissions, one of the doctors and faculty over on the School of Medicine side, who's on the Stony Brook admissions, comes over every spring semester and does a fantastic workshop for students interested in the medical career. So really trying to connect students even early on to these different resources. And so sometimes they are very much aligned with the theme of the undergraduate college and will allow you to explore that. And then sometimes it's really about also an opportunity to open up for gauging your interest. So even if you're not in, for instance, global health, wellness, and community, you will still have the option to participate in the pre-med panel, right, with Dr. Vicken when he comes and he does that. So lots of opportunities for students even to cross over into different events depending on what their different interests are.
That's great. A lot of our questions seem to be kind of tying around two different things. So I figure we can kind of give an overview that would really answer a lot of the questions, which is kind of what is the timeline? We have orientation. Can you talk a little bit about orientation, welcome week, move-in, and what those dates will look like for our incoming class?
Yeah, so let me mention a bit, and then Michelle, do you want to cover kind of the advising and registration piece?
Yeah,
So,
I can add that in, sure.
So a couple of things just so you can note on your calendar is that, especially for local families, kind of the Long Island, New York City group, because of COVID, obviously we've been very limited in bringing people to campus, but we will be inviting local families that might want to get a tour of campus just to kind of, visit the bookstore, get a sense of the lay of the land of the campus and some general information through a panel. We are planning to host those and offer them in June and July. So if you're local, you'll be getting communication from our new student programs office after May 1st. So that's one piece. The other thing we're doing during the summer is we'll be doing a whole series of live Zoom events that are focused on particular topics and particular groups. So maybe if you're a parent or family member, there'll be some for you. As first year students, even for international students, out-of-state students, there'll be different workshops that we'll offer. Again, these are not required, but these are just different elements. If you want to learn about housing on campus in more detail, about what's it like to be a commuter student, to learn about the meal plan. So there'll be a whole bunch of sessions. Those sessions will be recorded. So then if you couldn't attend, you'll be able to learn through that too. So those will be also during the months of June and July. The other piece related to the actual orientation and getting you acclimated and transitioning successfully to Stony Brook is we have a series of required modules that all new students complete. It's several that you do. They're about a half hour each that have a little quiz. It's not hard to pass the quiz, but it's really an important way for us to ensure that you know the key parts about what Stony Brook offers in terms of resources, how things operate. It just really helps you, get that learning curve completed before you step foot on campus. I'll turn it to Shelley to talk a little about what the advising registration, and then I'll kind of come back, maybe talk about welcome week a bit.
Yeah, so Jacqueline had mentioned that, once you deposit and you start receiving the emails around next steps, what I would say, it's just really important to pay attention. Obviously, pay attention to the emails and the next steps, but it's really important to pay attention to some of the academic elements there, in particular the placement exams. So what we will begin doing is, in the next few weeks, we're going to be reaching out to students about completing placement exams. Actively reaching out to make sure that everyone understands exactly where they need to go, what they need to do, how they need to do it. Because the sooner that you're able to do that, then the sooner we are able to move on to next steps. So for first year students in particular, we're going to be reaching out and beginning registration really between about the beginning of June, and that will go through, so the beginning of June through about August 2nd, right? So it's a very long time frame. So I mean, it seems like it's a very long time frame, but students will be in contact with their advisor, with our registration support assistants throughout that time period to begin building their schedule. So the sooner that you are able to complete the steps that are necessary for registration, then the sooner the registration support assistants and our advisors are able to reach out and begin your enrollment process. So that's what's really important. So, and students are gonna be involved. So I think, depending on other universities you may be familiar with, or obviously your high school experience, students are going to be involved in the registration process for themselves, with a lot of support. But we know that once you come in for spring, or once the fall semester is over and you come back for spring and the registration begins for spring, students are going to need to know how to register themselves. And so we also want to make sure that the process through summer is a supportive process that's a learning opportunity for what registration is like at Stony Brook, but also provides a lot of support, allows for a lot of support from us. So my biggest message, I guess, that I could have is, as soon as you're able to complete, just when you see those messages, complete it within the timeframes that are given to you, so that we are able to get you get started on the enrollment process for you.
And to add a couple of the pieces to what Shelley just mentioned, one is that through the new student program site, and you've already seen it if you've paid your deposit, there is a checklist of a variety of things to submit, whether it is a final official high school transcript, your AP score, et cetera. And one of the pieces as well, just to emphasize, is the importance of our MMR immunization record. And there's a meningitis form you need to complete via Solar. And so just to make it clear that is also, it needs to be done. And the earlier you do that, the better. So we don't have to track you down and find you for that. But so again, anything on that checklist that you can get done as soon as possible, it benefits you, it helps us move the process along. And I did also neglect to mention that over the summer, we have what we call in orientation peer assistant leaders, PALs, and they will be connecting in small groups via Zoom over the summer. So there'll be an opportunity, once you pay a deposit, you'll hear from that group. So sometime in, typically it'll be May or June, you will be part of a small group conversation. And again, it's just a way for you to kind of acclimate, even initially get to meet some people from all over the world, potentially on a Zoom call. And then that'll help kind of allow you to ask questions that are specific to you in a very small group setting. And then let me fast forward a bit. I saw some things in the chat room about dates. I'm going to lay it all out for you so you can take notes and write this down. So, a lot of it we've been waiting on because with COVID and as you probably know, both for out-of-state international travel, there were issues about quarantining and whatnot. And now with CDC guidance, both for out-of-state as well as international, that's now gone away. So that's good for us. It kind of allows us to move forward with our plan. And so a couple of things just to share in terms of dates. If you are an out-of-state or international student, your move-in date, if you're a resident student on campus, will be on Sunday, August 15th. You heard it here first. So tell all your friends. So August 15th is first day to move in, again, out-of-state international. All other first-year students will be moving in on either Monday, August 16th, or Tuesday, August 17th. And the reason we're doing this is obviously, even with COVID, we still want to practice some social distancing. And given that the number of residence halls where first years live are all together, we're just trying to spread it out. So What we did actually in COVID, and we're going to continue the same thing, is you'll be assigned kind of a time block on that day to be able to move in. As we did last summer, we will allow, typically what we did last summer will likely be the same, up to 2 family members to come in and move you in. There'll be face masks required for that. So those will be some pieces that in terms of operationally will work well. We do anticipate that we'll have on the Sunday, if you're out of state or international, we will have a family barbecue and gathering that day, as well as on Monday and Tuesday for movement. So we really try to make it a full day for the family members. I know it's probably tiring because some people drive several hours to get, drop their stuff off, but we really try to make it a fun day for the family to welcome you all to Stony Brook. And then first year orientation really kicks off for all students on Tuesday evening, the 17th, and it continues through Sunday, the 22nd. I won't go into a lot of detail for it, but the focus of that kind of 5-day period is really to encourage you and give you opportunities to meet as many people as possible. Because one thing we want to do is have you build community and connections with each other. And the way we do that is through a lot of small and large group activities. So we're planning to do a lot of outdoor events, whether it's you like yoga, you want to play volleyball, badminton, ultimate frisbee in small groups, as well as either other opportunities if you want to learn about internships or maybe do a lab tour. So there's lots of opportunity where you'll be able to choose what you'd like to do. There'll be a sign-up process in advance so that you can kind of manage capacity limits for each event, but that'll happen a lot. We'll also do for the class year, we're planning to do actually a really nice class dinner together on the Saturday night before the semester begins, as well as a whole host of events that even include off-campus trips. And we also are going to do some things in our university stadium. We have Convocation, it's called, where everybody gets to meet the president. Is a really nice event. So we're just doing a lot of new things to really engage everybody as much as possible. And one thing I wanted to mention, I know a lot of our students who come to Stony Brook have been very engaged in high school and community service. So we will also be planning a day of service for both events on and off campus to participate in. So again, another exciting addition to our plan. And then the first day of classes is on Monday, August 23rd. So just so you kind of have a sense of time frame for planning any kind of summer vacation and things you're doing, that welcome week's really critical. Just to point out, if you are commuting to campus, you don't plan to live on campus, the required days of orientation will be Tuesday evening, Wednesday, and Thursday of that week. So that's the late afternoon, even the 17th, the 18th, and 19th. All commuters are welcome, even the events going on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, but they're not required. But just wanted to let you know that as well. And so again, we're really excited about everything that's being planned this summer.
There was a couple of questions that'll be related to that. And then of course, our big one that everyone's worried about is a vaccine required to be able to live on campus, to be able to attend classes. So if you want to address that.
Yeah, I was waiting. I thought that'd be number one. So let me just talk kind of about health and safety more generally, and I'll get to COVID pieces too. I also wanted to mention that if you do live on campus, and this is just important for safety and security in general, every residence hall typically houses about 200 to 300 students, and we do have a professional live-in staff member in every residence hall. So there's a professional person there helping manage the hall. And then every floor also has what we call an RA, or resident assistant. It's an undergraduate student, typically either sophomore, junior, or senior, who knows, and they really serve as a mentor, kind of advocate, peer support throughout the experience. So just let you know, there's a lot of structure in addition to what Shelley mentioned with the college advisors and faculty, all really kind of providing safety nets and wrapping arms around you to make sure that you're doing well in your studies at Stony Brook. So just wanted to share that piece of it as well. In terms of just other safety pieces on campus, we do have a full university police department on campus. They are outstanding partners to work with. And so again, we have a community relations team. They're out and about playing Frisbee with students and really getting to know folks. And we really value what they do for our campus community, not only about their physical presence on the campus patrolling, but also a lot of the safety programs they do, like self-defense workshops and other things. And, people all ask, how safe is Stony Brook? And, the one thing that I think is incredibly safe about Stony Brook, we are, in essence, we are a self-contained campus. So different from other campuses you might have visited, there might be cases where you're walking around a more urban campus and you don't know if they go to that school or not. You're kind of embedded in the community. At Stony Brook, pretty much when you're on campus, it's people who go to Stony Brook, who work at Stony Brook you're engaging with. But we always say to everybody, would you ever leave your laptop just at a random store and walk away? No, you wouldn't do that. So we always say to people, act like you would in any other environment to protect your possessions and whatnot. But again, overall, I mean, Stony Brook is just an incredibly safe place with a lot of other safety measures in place that, we'll get into at another point in time. But I also want to talk a little about COVID, just because obviously that's in everyone's mind. And I know for all of you as seniors in high school, it's probably been quite a whirlwind experience at your school as it has been at Stony Brook. This year was obviously very different for us, unusual because we were primarily in online classes. So our campus density was reduced a lot. For this upcoming fall, and as Shelley mentioned, with registration happening, you can anticipate that the majority of your classes will be in person. The much larger classes that are typically 250 or more are going to be online. That's somewhat related to COVID, but it's also related to a big lecture hall that's being renovated at Stony Brook. So that's really, being taken offline to create that. So even within the space as you do your scheduling, just know you'll be majority in person with some online. And honestly, we've learned a lot about how to do online classes very effectively. In terms of health and safety around COVID, to the vaccine question, that is something that actually has to be determined by SUNY. It's not determined by individual campuses. You've probably seen every day, more and more schools are adding to the list of requiring it. There are legislative pieces to that we have to have New York State decide to put forward. One interesting piece of news, we actually did a survey of our current students in the last week to ask what percent have been vaccinated or have a scheduled vaccination. And we're at just about 77% of our own students have indicated that they're vaccinated or have the appointment to be vaccinated. And the vaccine hesitancy among our students is very, very low. It's just about 6%. So because of even those numbers, even if it wasn't required, we are probably, given that stat and knowing that the vaccine literally just rolled out much earlier than we anticipated for college age students, we anticipate we will get to our herd immunity is what we need. But a few things I just wanted to point out that if we don't require the vaccine, we're thinking the vast majority will have had it anyway. For those students, and if they come from communities, they don't have access to the vaccine, we will provide that to them on campus. And then if someone chose not to get vaccinated, the requirement would be to go through regular testing, which is what we've been doing now regularly. So in our current model, all of our resident students are tested twice a week. All of our commuter faculty and staff are tested once a week. That's regardless of whether you're vaccinated or not. We know that we will change that as more and more people get vaccinated. So if I had to kind of put my crystal ball out and envision what the fall will look like, I think it will be face mask required still at least through the fall. I think social distancing will be reduced from 6 feet to something smaller than that. Again, we're going to do double rooms, not triple rooms for first-year students. And if the vaccine is not required, we would just require much more regular testing of our students. We kind of say at Stony Brook, we feel like we're in a very good bubble because our infection rate the entire year has been under 1%. So if you know Suffolk County or New York City or whatever state or locality you're in, that reflects an incredibly tiny percent. In fact, I looked just this morning and our infection rate is actually 0.2 of 1%. So it's so low because we've been so proactive in doing such testing. So I'm actually very happy where we are in terms of safety and security for the campus. But again, I will just say to you all that if when you have the opportunity to get vaccinated, we strongly encourage you to be vaccinated. It's very important for the safety of our campus community. And I will just say, if you choose not to be vaccinated, there will be mandatory testing that will be required throughout your studies until we get to a point that the CDC says it's not advised anymore.
I don't know how you're able to read and talk and know all that stuff off the top of your head, but you have such a wealth of knowledge of everything going on. It's amazing that you were able to keep it all straight, but you answered so many of the questions that were coming up throughout the chat. So super helpful. There's a couple that I actually want to address, which is NetID and campus email, just real quick. A lot of students are asking, when am I going to get my NetID? When am I going to get my Stony Brook campus email? The students who have paid their deposit, it typically takes about a week for your NetID and campus email to come out, and we will be emailed to you in a separate email with all the steps and a requirement for two-factor authentication through Duo. If you have any questions, feel free to email enroll@stonybrook.edu, and we're happy to walk you through that process. Another one of the questions that does relate to housing, as we were talking about it, was the process for honors students who were admitted to an honors program, and how does that work with UGCs and housing?
Sure, so I can take that. So these are also our honors programs. Honors scholars and Ys are also part, we consider them to be learning communities as well. So the honors program, the honors college in particular, they have housing together. And then our Ys and our scholars students are together, but they are within undergraduate colleges. So they also sort of have a dual community in that way. So honors college has historically and will continue to live together as a learning community together. And then our scholars and our Y students, they participate. Scholars is a really important, and Ys is a really important part of their community identity. And then they also have the added benefit of participating in the undergraduate college community as well.
And if anybody's in the honors college that lives together in a group, they're going to be in, if you know the campus, they're actually going to live in Yang Hall in the fall. So it's a new location, but a very nice building. I think people will be very happy with that location. So.
I think anyone not having to walk from Tabler is probably happy. It is quite a hike. Excellent. So we have some other questions about kind of what is the freshman experience, everything tied to work study research. Is that going to change next year due to COVID restrictions? Are we going to kind of re-embrace the traditional first year model?
Yeah, so a couple things. It's very interesting. One big discussion we've had in the last several months is, what do we keep from the experience of COVID that actually works well? And I think some things around small group activities and some, we've instituted new technology. You just mentioned Duo, but there are a lot of other technologies implemented to really facilitate conversations. And for example, if someone's a commuter student and doesn't want to come back to campus at night, student groups can still meet on Zoom, for example. So we don't think these technologies, we want to enhance them and integrate them where it's most appropriate. But I anticipate that the majority of the campus will return back to a much more kind of normal in-person day. We've even seen it honestly in the last few weeks as the weather's been nicer. It actually, as we're on, Kelly and I just saw each other on campus today, and it felt very normal. So we're really excited to kind of see it. And that's why, again, I just want to emphasize the vaccination piece, because that's what gets us to the safer place to allow much more in-person of the experience, just overall in general, and not worry about capacity limits and distancing. Those things I think will still evolve over time, but it's just very important that people to take the measures that we put in place.
I think for academic support services too, in particular, I think you will see a combination of modalities for service, because what we know, particularly for our commuter students, for example, that having flexibility of times and flexibility of space really optimized for some students their ability to connect with services. And so, as Rick mentioned, we're really excited about being back in person, but we are also going to be offering some continued services, utilizing the technology that we've seen really has the capacity to work, so that we can try to meet students' different needs, depending on what they are. I mean, as much as I think some of us are getting, tired of Zoom in different ways and things like that, it really, I think, has opened up different options for people to connect that may not necessarily have been there before, and particularly to connect with our professional academic support staff.
And Jacqueline, if I could just also add that this year, again, because of the pandemic, particularly in our health and wellness areas of the campus, we've had to, our famous word is pivot, and we've pivoted to different models. And so even within, we call it CAPS, which is counseling and psychological services. And by the way, your tuition and fees covers all these services that are free. It's all included in this. So access to mental health counselors, access to student health services, but we've implemented, because we have a lot of students off campus, we've implemented telecounseling and telemedicine models. And those also operate 24/7, 7 days a week. So just to make it clear that that's a really important model that I don't think we're going to go away from. Like, we'll do a mixed model of in-person and online. I should also point out that even within our student health services area, We do have a full pharmacy, we have psychiatry, we have just we have nutritionists, we have all the services. And then again, for everyone on campus, we have, and this is, I would say is probably in surveys of our students, it's the most popular thing on campus, which is their recreation and wellness center. So it's a beautiful space, lots of fitness classes, free use of equipment. We've done a lot of, COVID safety protocols by cleaning every hour on the hour in the space, but it is, again, just a great way, especially because college is stressful, a lot going on, academic, it's hard work. I mean, and you need a place where you can kind of focus on both your physical and mental wellness. And that is a space that attracts about almost 3,000 visits a day. So just wanted to encourage you, if you get a chance to come to campus and see that space, I think you'd be really impressed. And I would hope that you would make regular use of the space for your own wellness.
I would argue that that space competes with any standalone fitness center or gym or whatever. I mean, it really is a fantastic space.
Yeah.
You might just catch Rick like just holding onto the
Yeah.
rock wall.
That's right.
in a suit.
In his suit,
Right.
with the therapy dogs just running around him. So one of the questions, this is actually going to kind of pivot a bit. We got a lot were about the placement exams, just to clarify a little bit about that. Which ones can they study for them? What happens if you fail, which you can't? So
Right.
if we could just give a little bit more of an explanation about the placement exams and how those will be working this year.
Yeah, I mean, there's several different, placement mechanisms. And if I have a chance, I can, or someone can put it into the chat if people are really interested in seeing the different ways that placement happens at Stony Brook. So it's not just through the exam. So there are, depending on the course or the discipline, there are different ways that we place students. Some of that comes from AP exams. So for students that might be taking AP exams, that might be the primary way that we end up placing a student. It tends to be, so the big ones are, for some students, it's a writing diagnostic. For most students, it's a math placement exam. If students are planning on taking chemistry, it's a chemistry module that students have to move through. And then there's also foreign language placement as well. And so depending on what your situation is, and like I said, most first year students will take the math placement exam in particular. That's one that we find is most common or most universal, regardless of what other kinds of things you may come in with, AP scores being one example. So in terms of the timeline for that, the timelines are all slightly different. And so when you get the information, you're going to receive the information about those exams. You're going to want to take a careful look at what the timelines are for them. I would say, obviously, try to get to all of them, but in terms of the priority piece of it, math placement is probably going to come out soonest. And so really look for that. And that's for some of you, that's actually going to come out before information where you can actually go on and access that exam is actually going to come out before you probably even finish high school this year. And so I think, to the point about what happens if you fail, it's not really about failing. It's about assessing your knowledge base. So I think it's really important to understand that this is an exam that is not a pass fail or that you're getting a grade for. It's assessing a knowledge base so that you can be successful in the course that you're placed in, right? So it's really about making sure that you are going to be successful in that course. And so it's really important that, that you take it and that you do the best that you can, but that you also know that that it's really about getting you into a course to make you to prioritize your success. If for some reason something happens, you have a bad day, you feel like you could have done better on it, you are able to retake them. There's a retake period for that we're going to provide over the summer if you feel like that doesn't capture your performance in that particular area. So there is a retake, will be retake availability for that. I think you had another question that was embedded in there, Jacqueline, but I'm not sure if I answered it.
No, it was just can they study for it? But it's really
oh, that was the one. I
overview.
actually did want to mention that. So there is also information. There's pre-test information which is sent out. It's like like their sample exams, sample questions, things like that, almost kind of like a study tool, so that you have a sense of like what to expect from the placement exam, so that, you know, it hopefully for some of you that will reduce some of your anxiousness over it. So there is information that comes out when you get the placement exam information. There will be information about that study tool. For ALEX, which is the chemistry placement modules, it's actually a fantastic system where it's actually providing you information and measuring your you know, your success, the way you retain that information actually along the way. So in part, it actually involves some of that adaptable technology, and then it will bring you back, right? So if you know you haven't quite mastered that, it will bring you back again to sort of re-go over some of the skills, and then it will move you forward, right? So it's an adaptive technology, and there's not really any way to study for that, but it will actually, through the module, will actually be able to give you information and then assess how you do with that information so that you can be in the right chemistry placement.
And I was going to say, I didn't go to Stony Brook for my personal experience. Let the placement be where you place, and that's fine, because sometimes we engage with students who want to then get to a higher level in the placement exam, and then they're in the actual course that places them into that course, and they're not successful because they really didn't know the material well enough. So it is fine to study and review stuff, but it's really supposed to be a test of where you are right now. And so that you will be successful. So don't ever view it that you failed. It's not relevant. It's really to just assess where you are at this point in time so that you will be successful. And that then puts you on a trajectory of allowing Shelley and her advising team to place you appropriately as you look at your curriculum over the next 3 years or so.
Yeah, and you know, to Rick's point too, for some students, you may think that you need a higher level math course that you don't actually need, right? So, and I think you really want, so I think it, you know, obviously if that's your pathway, you will get to it when you are ready to get to it, you know, when you will be successful and when you can move through that material. But, you know, you also want to be a little bit careful that, you know, I think we sometimes see students who come in and they want the higher level math just because it feels like that's something that is smarter, or, you know, and in fact, you may not necessarily need it, you know, for your particular degree plan. And B, you really do want to make sure that that you're going to be successful in it. And particularly in the first semester of college, with so many different things going on, and you know, and it's going to be a different experience, and it's going to be exciting. You want to make sure that you're placed appropriately, so that you can move through, you know, your plan and through to your goals in an optimal way.
Jack, I also mentioned as another support service we didn't mention is we do have the Student Accessibility Support Center, which is, we call it SASC, SASC. And so if you, as a high school student, had an IEP or a documented learning disability, we do encourage you as early as possible to connect with their office to carry that through and discuss any reasonable accommodations for your classes. So whether that would be extended test time or a note taker or other pieces, again, it's stonybrook.edu/SASC, SASC, to reach out to. And their team's wonderful to work with. But again, it's very important that you take that first step to communicate, and then they're happy to reach back and to work with you throughout the summer to get you prepped for the fall.
Yeah, we can throw that link in the chat too, so anyone can access it. And it's funny that you brought that up, because that was the next thing I was going to bring up. So
well, I'm reading your mind now. So let me guess what's next.
That makes sense. All right, what do you think is next?
I don't know. No,
one of the questions that I know it's not applicable to all students, but it is a frequently asked question in the chat, is just about the pre-med process, which can also tie into what is the difference between like a track like pre-med with advising versus a major and changing majors. Those are two pretty common questions that we could go over.
Shelley and I have lived this for a long time. Do you want to go first?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I can just say, you know, we do not have a pre-med major at Stony Brook. There are certainly certain majors that students, you know, tend to who are interested in pre-med tend to pursue. But actually, and I know Rick's going to talk about, I know Rick's going to talk about some of the resources around this, but what I will say is that, what we're seeing more and more is that medical schools are actually looking for students, are really, there's a good number of students that are in non-STEM degree programs that are being accepted into medical school. And so it really doesn't matter what major you are in for med school, as long as you have the prereqs for medical school as you apply. So it's the prereqs that are really important, less so about the major. So med schools really want to see that you are doing well, that you've done well in those courses. And again, that's all part of, when you meet with advisors, and Rick can talk a little bit about the pre-health program to help support students, but they will be able to, they talk students through that kind of a plan and what that looks like to make sure that those prerequisites are being met. So there are lots of students at Stony Brook that also go to medical school, are accepted to amazing medical schools that are not, their major is not a STEM major, but they have in fact met all of the prerequisites that they've taken in parallel to their major courses and their general education courses. So I don't want to say that it doesn't matter at all, but it matters much less so. And I think students should really pursue what they're interested in. In fact, we just had a student at University Scholars had a pre-medical panel the other night. So many of our alumni came back who were in the University Scholars program that are currently in residency, in medical school and in residency, to come back and talk to current students about their experiences. And I will say that a good majority of the group, I would say at least about 40% of the group did not have STEM degrees. And one of the students is a top student right now at Yale that had her degree was in a humanities field, but she had taken all of the prereqs, and now she's at Yale studying oncology. So I think it's really important that you pursue what you're passionate about. If it's other things, right, that you can feel like you can pursue that on top of what your goals might be for medical school.
Yeah,
Rick, do you want to add about the pre-health program?
Yeah, I'll mention, so the other good news is that when you look at your first year curriculum, again, you don't have to plan out everything from day one for the next 4 years, because your path will change. Your interest will change. And one of the things that we love when you go to college, you are going to get depth of experience in your chosen major, and you'll have breadth of experience across the general education courses. And to Shelley's point, there are times when, and this is what we love the most, when a student took what they thought was, a gen ed checklist course, and it becomes their new passion. And so, as Shelley mentioned, that often can happen with someone interested. I'm not going to even just say pre-med, because pre-med is the most loaded term. I'd rather actually just reframe it to say interest in health professions, because health professions, as you know, and COVID is a good example of this, there are so many components of what healthcare looks like today, and we don't want students to be short-sighted and only look at MD or DO roles. We have an awesome PA program at Stony Brook, our OT program, nursing. The list goes on. And in fact, I think that's probably the more overwhelming part, learning about all the options and knowing where the decision tree goes. So the good news is this: whatever you do, if you're interested in health professions, whatever you're going to take in your first year is going to apply, I'd say, to 99% of what you'd ever pursue. And your first semester schedule is going to have chemistry and calculus. That's the traditional. And then you will branch out from there as you explore it. And so Shelley used the example of a panel. This is one benefit of a thing like Zoom, because we can Zoom alums in from all over the country. You don't have to fly in to meet with folks. And so my advice would be the sponge and absorb all those types of opportunities to learn. Our Stony Brook Hospital, right across the main road of the campus, they don't have it right now because of COVID, but I'm sure they will reinstate volunteer opportunities. I also wanted to point out we have an amazing program called Eureka, which is undergrad research and creative activities. We have through our Career Center internships. Students do so much work in labs with faculty. So I think it's a little bit too early. Having goals is really important, but be open to change as you learn about pieces of it. I just think we get so caught up in, here's what my friends say and my parents say, and I know pre-med and that's what I want to do. And so we typically have a very high percentage of students who indicate that in coming to STEM, but they change their mind for a whole host of reasons. So the view is, this is your chance to learn and experience different things and then help narrow down your choices to what really is the best fit for you, given your interests and your skills and abilities.
So much information. Thank you. And then for any other student who's coming in and they, 17 years old, pick a major, choose your whole life, and shocking, a lot of them want to change their major. So what is the process and how does the Stony Brook curriculum tie into that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad that you brought up majors, because I always tell families and students that changing the major is actually the norm. So a lot of the national research even indicates that the majority of students will change their majors at least twice. And I think so. I say that because I think sometimes students come in and they think, oh, I wanted to do, that's what I thought, and now I'm going to change it, and so that somehow like that's a bad thing, or I've that's a failure or something. In fact, actually, changing when the sooner a student changes their major, actually can help them really optimize their success as they move through, because you're responding to your sense of what you're interested in, right? And really kind of being aware and being present to what you're interested in and what your passions are. And so I really do encourage students, like, if you begin to think about that, talk to the support services that we have, so that so that you can get some feedback and you can really check in with that a little bit and see what that might mean for you. So in terms of changing the major, so for new students that are coming in, we're going to check with you again to make sure that the major that you indicated is the one that's still there for you, because it really does determine how we register you, right? So we're going to try to confirm that with you right away up front. If it is something that you do want to change, the advisors will have a conversation with you about that and the process. Once you actually get, once you're actually enrolled and you matriculate and you start the semester, there are windows of time in which a student can actually change their major every fall and every spring. And during those windows of time, there is essentially a form that you go on. There's an electronic form, and you fill it out, and then the department needs to also, the department of the major that you want to be in needs to indicate permission for that. And then the registrar's office will process it. So that's sort of the mechanics of it, but the important part of it is that you have conversations with people about that as you're making that decision, both within the academic departments for the disciplines that you're interested in, but also our professional advisors. Now, the way that the general education ties into this, and the Stony Brook curriculum is a fantastic curriculum in the sense that it really provides a broad view to students about all different kinds of issues. And it really is kind of a true liberal arts education in that way, to expose students to different kinds of topics. So the Stony Brook curriculum will allow you to explore topics in different disciplines: sociology, arts, music, history, political science. I was just talking to somebody the other day. There's a course called Saints and Fools, right? So there's Africana studies, women, gender, and sexuality studies. So many anthropology, right? So all different kinds of topics that you will be able to take that will count towards your general education requirements in different ways, because we want students to have exposure to global issues, diversity and equity, which is one of our areas. We want students to have a foreign language. We want students to understand social and behavioral sciences, what it's like to evaluate and synthesize information, public speaking. So all of these are actually part of the Stony Brook curriculum and provide a great foundation for students to explore different topics and different disciplines that you may actually have never been exposed to before.
That actually ties in perfectly with one of the questions that we got that I'd love to address with you. And that's just how, we're in a very trying times, and how is Stony Brook addressing racism, pressure on Asian students, Black students? I know that we just actually had something with Rick on that the other day, but we also have that diversity component of the curriculum. So I'd love to hear your feedback from both of you on that.
Yeah, no, I think it's a great, I saw a lot in the chat room. I think that's a really excellent question. I mean, a couple of things just to share a bit about, if you're not even familiar with Stony Brook's profile, one of the things that drew me to Stony Brook years ago, and it continues to make me love the university, is the diversity of the student body. And so if you look at our profile, there's actually not one majority group on the campus. And so that's really meaningful, I think, for all of us, because what I always say to folks is I've been in environments that are very homogeneous. And you can read about diversity in a book, and I always say at Stony Brook, we live it every day because we experience it every day. I mean, and again, this is just in all friends, both race, gender, sexual orientation, religion, New York State, out of state, international, and again, we just want to make it clear that everyone is welcome at Stony Brook. And I think what we try to do every day is, we know that there are a lot of societal ills and things that we have to work through. And that's part of what I think our charge as faculty and staff at Stony Brook is, to help our students, in my mind, is to become the next group of leaders that are going to help solve the problems that society faces. And so I think we're a breeding ground for trying to create change, momentum. As Jacqueline mentioned, just this past weekend, we had a rally in March for AAPI community. We also are very engaged in the Black Lives Matter movement as a university, and supporting Port Jeff as our local town. Last summer, we had a huge rally that the university participated in along with the town. Also this fall on campus. So there, that's one piece of it, but we've also made a major investment in diversity, equity, inclusion. We call DEI at Stony Brook through a diversity plan. SUNY is also very committed to that as well. So I mentioned about the diversity of our staff, of our students, but also making investments in faculty and staff hiring to also bring in faculty and staff who actually are reflective of our student body. So I will say it's always a work in progress, but I do think on our campus, there's what I would argue a lot of goodwill, a lot of good conversation. We do want our students and the curriculum in the 101 and 102 engage in that. We want students to engage in, difficult and often uncomfortable conversations to really root out stereotypes, to root out any bias and things. And again, because we've all come from different places in the world and different experiences, and you have your own lived experience. And part of it is we want our students, and we provide all these opportunities to listen and learn and grow. And I would view that we wouldn't have been doing our job when students come to the stadium and graduate if they didn't grow in the area of their own DEI growth, so that they can go out and affect change in the world. So that's really what I think our mantra is at Stony Brook, and what we try to live every day.
Yeah, we're really getting to the end here. So we're going to try to just two more things, and then I think we'll wind down. So bring it back completely on the side, housing and special populations. Some people were asking about, is the UGC tied to your housing? If you're in honors, do you have to live with other honor students? Wise, things like that, EOP, and how does that work? And our other question was about class size, and then I think we'll wrap it up.
So the question was about whether UGC is tied to housing. Yes. So the undergraduate. The short answer to that is, if you live in housing, you will live within your undergraduate college community, right? So if you select social justice, equity, and ethics, then that learning community is affiliated with the Mendelssohn community, and so that would be where you would live together. However, as Rick mentioned before, the undergraduate colleges, it transcends housing. So it's really about, no matter whether you live in housing or not, you're part of the undergraduate colleges and you're part of that community. So even as a commuter, you would still select your undergraduate college and still would participate to the full, you'd have all of the participation options and opportunities for that, experiences, seminars and advising and social events. It's just that you wouldn't live within that. You wouldn't live within Mendelssohn in the case of the social justice community.
And
And
what was the second question? Oh, class size.
class size, yes.
Right.
So, class size varies at Stony Brook. It's going to depend on, the course that you take. Many of our 100 level classes, our higher demand classes will tend to be large. They can be anywhere from 100, 250 students. They can be even sometimes a little bit larger than that, depending on the course. But those larger courses often have recitations that are paired with them. And so students have an opportunity to be in a lecture space with the faculty member, and then also in a smaller space, sometimes even 15 to 20 students broken down with the material together in a much smaller classroom. But then other classes could be anywhere from 40, 50, and then progressively smaller oftentimes as a student moves through their college career. So as you begin to take some of your 300 level and your 400 level classes, will certainly get smaller. But one of the really great parts about the Undergraduate Colleges program is that right away you're going to have several small classes, one of which is going to be your first year seminar in the fall, which is going to be around 20, sometimes less than 20. And then your first year seminar in the spring, which will also be around the same size. Your writing course as well is going to be very small. And that also becomes a very important community for our new students. So if you take Writing 101 or Writing 102, you will also have a class size that's about 20. So it does vary on the class. But I would also say that even for our larger classes, there are a lot of opportunities for students to connect and network with both the faculty, the TAs, tutors around the material. And so, so I think it's going to vary depending on your program. That's the other thing. So if you're in a STEM field, right, certainly we're going to see, some of those classes are going to be a little bit larger, but your labs will be smaller. If you select women's gender and sexuality studies or English, just as one example, some of those courses may be a little bit smaller to start. So it does vary, but there's lots of support and lots of opportunities to connect with students across those different spaces.
Yeah, I always thought, Stony Brook is a large school, but we do find so many ways to make it smaller. And one of the things that I love, even as a staff member, is teaching my Honors 101 courses, connecting with that smaller group of students and reminding them that they are heard. You have plenty of opportunities to make sure that you get that, especially in your first year when you do have some larger classes, depending on those introductory courses. So definitely ways to find that you are connecting with other people, faculty and staff. The only other question was about placement exams and will they be virtual, which is yes. And we'll be emailing you with a lot more information. So I think the biggest thing to take away from this chat is please check your email. I'm pretty sure that's what it comes down to. We will be reaching out a lot to students. It's not just because I write them, but also because we reach out a lot to students with very pertinent information, and we want to make sure that you get the most out of it. But thank you, Rick. Thank you, Shelley, so much for another wonderful event. You guys have been amazing. And if we did not get to your question, and there were hundreds.
There are so many. The level of engagement is incredible. So this is great.
It is.
We love it. Please email us at enroll@stonybrook.edu or call the admissions office at 631-632-6868, and we'll be happy to answer your question. But thank you again, Rick and Shelley, and I look forward to many more talks.
Good luck, everybody, in your decision making. Hope you'll choose Stony Brook and see you in the summer and the fall. So
we hope to see you.
Yeah.
See you later.
Take care. Have a great night, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.